Hello everybody and welcome back to SFF180. It's me as always, and today is Monday the 7th of April 2014. That means it's time for the mailbag once again. So we will go ahead and dig right into it. I've got a pretty decent stack right here on the floor waiting for us all to see what is inside, so gonna do that. Not a whole heck of a lot in the way of announcements this week, except for, in case you missed it, the big fantasy news publishing last week was that Tad Williams has announced that he's going to be doing a new trilogy in the same universe of his Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn trilogy. So it'll be like a follow-up to that, and I know it's a big, huge, popular trilogy of his, and a lot of people were very excited to hear that news. So that's, I guess that's the big publishing announcement for last week. But otherwise, happy to have you back. Welcome to all the new subs. As always, I appreciate the channel growth, and I'm very glad you are here. So without any further ado, let's check out this week's mail. All right, and this first one comes to me from Penguin. Okay, this is an arc from Daw. The author is E.C. Ambrose, and the book is Elisha Magus, which is the sequel to a book called Elisha Barber, which I have. Came out, I don't know, maybe a little bit less than a year ago, but this is the continuation of this series. I'll just get into it really quickly. The series is set in an alternate 14th century Europe, the home to terrifying witchcraft and necromancy. The Dark Apostle series follows Elisha's story as he begins to discover and play a pivotal part in the secret magical conflicts influencing the calamitous history of the late Middle Ages. Elisha, a former barber surgeon, worked night and day tending to the wounded soldiers and protecting them from Lucius, the haughty physician he serves under. But even so, he found that he had a talent for a surprising and deadly sort of magic, and was eventually forced... I may have to bleep that out because that might have been a spoiler for Elisha Barber. Oh well. Anyway, it's coming out from Daw in July. Okay, and this is a very bulky package from Penguin, and I think this is going to be this month's mass markets. In fact, it's definitely going to be that because it's full of books. Okay, well there are mass markets and more in that little package there, but I'm just going to go ahead and go through the mass markets first, one by one. We have Sworn in Steel by Douglas Hulick. This is the sequel to Among Thieves. Yeah, you may remember that they sent me the arc of this, which is very nice. So now the finished copy is out and available, and looks very nice. This is a highly thought of fantasy saga, and it's taken about 3 years for the sequel to get out. So a lot of people are very eager to see how this one turns out. Next one is Alien Collective. It's the newest in this series here by Jeannie Koch. The Alien series, I won't say it's... kind of a somewhat comedy, tongue-in-cheek romance, aliens invading the Earth kind of thing. I read bits of the first one. The sense of humor wasn't really my cup of tea. But I know these are very popular, so and Jeannie Koch is just spitting them out like you wouldn't believe. So here's the most recent one, Alien Collective. Okay, this next one is Silver Mirrors by A.A. Aguirre, who is not, it's not a pseudonym for Anne Aguirre, but it's Anne Aguirre and her husband. Together, working together, kind of doing the Ilona Andrews thing. This is a steampunk series, and this is the second volume. The first volume was Bronze Gods, and now Silver Mirrors is out. And this next one here is Dragon Princess by S. Andrew Swan. It's from Daw. Swan is an author who has done both fantasy and science fiction, and this is a very brightly colored and old-fashioned and, as you see, very pretty-looking book. So appears to be a new sort of a thing from him. Let's see what this is all about. Frank Blackthorn's last heist did not end well. The Virgin survived, but the episode left Frank on the run from a kingdom full of demon-worshipping cultists eager to replace their sacrifice. So when the court wizard of Lendoen, Alhared the Unwise, comes to him intending to hire someone to save Lendoran's Princess Lucille from a night-eating dragon in return for riches, glory, and an escape from the cultists after his blood, Frank is rightfully suspicious. After all, who hires a thief to save a princess? However, Frank is also in no position to refuse. Okay, so it sounds very cute and humorous. Maybe the sort of book that John Moore would have written a few years ago. So here we go, Dragon Princess from Daw. And also in the big envelope is this, Immortal Muse by Stephen Lay. Stephen Lay is a writer who has actually been around for a great many years, has written both SF and fantasy. He has also written fantasy under the pen name S.L. Farrell. But he has a new book under his own name now. Immortal Muse is an unforgettable tale that sweeps readers from 1300s Paris to modern-day New York, with interludes in the 1635 Rome of Bernini, the 1737 Venice of Vivaldi, the French Revolution in Paris with Lavoisier and Robespierre, 1814 London, with William Blake and John Polidori, Fin de siècle Vienna with Gustav Klimt, and World War II France with Charlotte Solomon. Okay, so if you're like a history buff, you're going to have a major hard-on for this. Tell you what, Immortal Muse. What all else happens? It began with the marriage of Perenelle and Nicholas Flamel. It began, too, with alchemy, sorcery, and the legendary elixir of life. And though many had striven to perfect this formula, it was Perenelle alone who finally achieved it. But for every prize there is a price, and the cost of immortality would prove high indeed. Perenelle became the Immortal Muse, whose very survival depended on the creativity she nurtured in others, while Nicholas sustained his life force through the pain and torment of his victims. And what began with the sacred oath of love became an endless pursuit through time, driven by enmity and vengeance. So, those be careful what you wish for, kind of things, but could be a very fascinating book. And again, if you like the historical angle, this is full of it. Immortal Muse by Stephen Ley. Okay, and this is interesting. The last item crammed into that giant penguin envelope is Science Fiction 101, Exploring the Craft of Science Fiction, anthology edited by Robert Silverberg. And let's see what this is about. In Science Fiction 101, Silverberg reveals the roots of modern science fiction with thought-provoking essays about some of the field's most groundbreaking stories included in this volume, which inspired him and taught him to write. These insightful analyses, along with the skills and strategies Silverberg developed to build his successful career, make this an indispensable volume, indispensable, not indispensable, thank you, for readers interested in science fiction history. So, among the stories are included, okay, 4 in 1 by Damon Knight, Fondly Fahrenheit by Alfred Bester, No Woman Born by C.L. Moore, Henry Kuttner, Robert Sheckley, Common Time, Scanners Live in Vain by Cord Rayner Smith, Hot House by Brian W. Aldiss, The New Prime by Jack Vance, Phil Dick's Colony, Little Black Bag by C.M. Kornbluth, and Day Million by Frederick Cole. So it's a lot of very, very classic tales, and then each one is followed by an essay by Silverberg where he discusses the story and what makes it work. So Science Fiction 101. Well, that was a big old pile of books, and here now is a very tightly wrapped package that has come to me from Canada. So we'll see what this is all about. I'm going to have to open it very surgically because it's very tightly wrapped. Okay, well, I have just received an entire trilogy's worth of space operas. This is small press material, and from a publicist saying, you know, I hope that you enjoy these space opera style adventures, etc., etc. Please don't. Okay, Destiny's War. All right, well, let's take a look and see what they are. I don't know the order that they go in. Well, anyway, the author is Marie Bilodeau, and you know, as you see, they've got that kind of small press production values to it. But there are 3 books here: Destiny's Blood, Destiny's Fall, Destiny's War. Well, then I'm just going to read the back of Destiny's Blood, and maybe it will fill us in. Layala de la Mores wants nothing more than to settle into a quiet, peaceful life, running a small flower shop with her twin sister Yoma. But Layala is tormented each night by terrifying visions that she cannot remember when she wakes. When Yoma vanishes, Layala is certain that her nightly visions hold the key, but only her sister's thieving friend, one of the last survivors of the Aether races, can unlock them. Layala suspects that her friend isn't telling her the whole truth, instead sheltering her from her own visions. Destiny's Blood, Destiny's Fall, and Destiny's War. Again, I'm assuming that is the order. I'm right, that is the order, and you can probably look up more about these books on the dragonmoonpress.com website, the Destiny Trilogy. All right, so here's a package from Tor. Okay, and here's one that a lot of people have been anticipating. This is Steles of the Sky by Elizabeth Bear. It's the final novel in her Eternal Sky trilogy, where the first volumes are Range of Ghosts and Shattered Pillars. This is a trilogy that has gotten a great deal of good notice, so Steles of the Sky, the final volume, is now out from Tor. HarperCollins. Oh, well, how about this? This is a new title from an author who has done a very dark and revisionist, well, I won't say revisionist, but it is an extremely dark extension and expansion upon the Oz story, an unofficial sequel to The Wizard of Oz, Dorothy Must Die. And I've already actually made plans to review this, interestingly enough, so to actually get a copy is very handy. Crash landing via tornado into a childhood nightmare, Amy Gum finds the time-lit, sparkling city of Oz a far cry from its former over-the-rainbow glory. The culprit? That bitch from Kansas. It actually says that here. It's Dorothy Gale. Power-hungry and invincible, Dorothy has turned everything on its head. Now the Scarecrow conducts inhumane experiments on the winged monkeys, the Tin Woodsman is a trained killer, and the Lion is a deranged monster out for blood. Upon arriving, Amy is immediately inducted into the Revolutionary Order of the Wicked, a group of not-so-wicked witches that are determined to rid their land of Dorothy. Now Amy will have to show more gumption than was ever necessary in her Kansas trailer park life. When everyone has ulterior motives and no one is whom they seem, it is not easy to know what to do next. But one thing's for sure, Dorothy must die. All right, well, here we go, guys. A very, very dark spin on L. Frank Baum's Oz World. This is a book called Cedars. The author is A.J. Colucci. Racked with guilt over fears of a monster being released upon the world as a result of his botany experiments, George Brooks, the 75-year-old recluse, climbs off the top of a cliff and plummets to his death. George's fears are unfortunately realized when the heirs to his estate arrive on the island several weeks later in Cedars, which is a book that releases July 15th. Following his guilt-ridden demise, George's daughters, Isabel, and her 3 teenagers, Jules Beecher, blah, 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 their names. In the laboratory, Jules reads over piles of notes and realizes that George may have achieved the most monumental breakthrough in the history of modern science, communication between humans and plants. And so anyway, it goes on from there. So some botanical horror and creepiness from A.J. Colucci. The book is Cedars, and it is released in July. And finally, a book from Random House. All right, well, if you've been a fan of Kevin Hearn and his Iron Druid Chronicles series, they are making the leap to hardcover with Book 7, which comes out in June, Shattered, the 7th installment. Kevin Hearn began his Iron Druid Chronicles back in 2011 with the paperback original Hounded, and now they're super popular, and so the most recent installment, Shattered, if you would like for me to get into the Iron Druid Chronicles, I mean, I have them all, starting with Hounded, let me know in the comments. But Shattered arrives June 17th from Del Rey in hardcover. And that is the mailbag for this week. A wide variety of things. Young adult to small press to some big names. A lot to choose from there. So, as always, please fire up the comments. Let me know which of all of these looks most interesting and intriguing to you, which you would like for me to prioritize in the review queue. Like I said, I've already made plans to do Dorothy Must Die, but there's some other good stuff in there too, so let me know. And once again, please like, share, and sub if you enjoy watching. Sharing this with your SFF reading friends, as always, has been a huge help. I've really appreciated and enjoyed the channel growth in the last few weeks. We're up over 300 subs, so it's ever climbing. Thank you all so much, and until I see you next time, happy reading.